No one wants to hear that. But retirement can ruin your life. Not because it is bad to leave work, but because most people stumble upon it unprepared. And money is only half the problem. If even one of the 5 warning signs says you're not ready to retire, you need to slow down and lock yourself in an irreversible decision. Warning sign 1. You are not really done yet. Everyone is considering retirement, but few sit down to take stress tests to see if their money can last 20 or 30 years. The gap between people's savings and real demand is worrying. According to the Federal Reserve Consumer Finance Survey, in 2022, the median household retirement account, aged 55 to 64, is about $185,000. Families aged 65 to 74 earn about $20000 through the 4% withdrawal rule issued by William Benjamin, a financial planner. In 1994, a $200,000 portfolio spits out about $8,000 a year, broken down into $667 a month. It is not a retirement plan. It is just a grocery and utility budget. Morningstar. So researchers believe that even 4% may now be too aggressive, which means that the safer start rate is closer to 3.3% to 3.8%. Given the low expected returns and the fact that people live longer than Benjamin's original model assumed, Social Security has increased the cushion, but not what most people think. As of January 2024, the average monthly benefit was about $1,907, which means that a typical retiree, combined with savings, withdrawals, and Social Security, earns about $2,500 a month. In some parts of the country, this may work because the house is paid off and the cost is not high. But once you factor in healthcare, it collapses. Fidelity, as 2024 estimate shows that the average after-tax cost for 65-year-old retired couples to pay medical expenses during retirement is about $165,000. Excluding long-term care, according to Genworth 2023, the annual rent for a private room in a nursing home is about $116,800, while the annual rent for a home health assistant is about $75,500. Few budget for these numbers because few are willing to consider them. For those who retire early, things could get worse. Medicare eligibility does not begin until age 65, which means that anyone who leaves before that birthday needs to find and pay for health insurance during the gap, and personal market plans quickly become expensive depending on age, location, and plan design. Debt makes all this more onerous. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found that mortgage debt for homeowners 65 and older roughly doubled between 2000 and 2020, climbing from about 22% to about 40%. Retiring with a mortgage or car payment or both erodes an already thin income stream. Fidelity's benchmark requires you to save 10 times your final annual salary at age 67. So people making $750,000 a year need $750,000 in retirement savings to achieve that goal, compared with the median of $200,000. The gap became clear. This situation was exacerbated by the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development Retirement Confidence Survey in 2024, which showed that 43% of workers reported total household savings of less than $25,000 and about 28% held less than $1,000. If those numbers are familiar, retirement is not the next step. The real financial plan is. Warning sign 2. Your entire identity is your job. This time has received less attention, but in many ways it poses a greater risk than a shortage of savings. Extra years of work and strict savings can fill the financial gap. Identity crises in their 60s can spiral in ways that are harder to fix. According to Gallup, about 55% of American workers associate identity with work, while among professionals, executives, and managers, the number jumped to about 70%. If the first thing you say to someone at a dinner party is your position, and if your self worth fluctuates with your professional accomplishments, retirement deprives you of what makes you feel like yourself. The psychologist Amy W.R. Zesniewski's research here makes a useful distinction between people who think their work is for money, a career for promotion, or a career that provides deep personal meaning. The third group, left facing the steepest psychological cliff. Dr. Ken Tichwald, director of AgeWave, has spent decades studying aging and retirement. He describes how retirees often lose not only their income, but also their social roles, daily lives, and sense of importance in a structured way. Robert Ashley's widely cited retirement stage model clearly describes this trajectory. Expectations are built before retirement, and then the honeymoon period fills you with excitement about freedom and leisure. But when novelty fades and days begin to empty, that excitement fades into disillusionment. Repositioning and stability come late, but only if you try to rebuild a sense of purpose. Most people just imagine a honeymoon. No one can imagine this disillusionment. This is the dangerous part. A study by the Institute of Economic Affairs found that retirement increased the risk of clinical depression by about 40%. This is a single study whose results are controversial in the broader literature, but whose pattern is consistent enough to be taken seriously. Establishing an identity outside of work before leaving is not optional. Hobbies, community involvement, creative projects, mentoring, and anything that has nothing to do with your employer will give you reason to wake up on Wednesday morning. If you're not ready, you're not ready. Warning sign 3. Your social life is your job. US Health Secretary Vivek Murthy issued an official announcement in May 2023 declaring loneliness and social isolation a public health epidemic. And the health data behind the announcement should not be ignored. Chronic loneliness carries a health risk of smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. Social isolation increases the risk of premature death by about 26%, heart disease by about 29%, and stroke by about 32%. What does this have to do with retirement? For many, the office is a place for social life, casual conversations in hallways, lunches with colleagues, projects, and team membership. All of this disappears on your last day. And if you don't build relationships outside the workplace, you're in a social vacuum. Data from the Survey Center on American Life in 2021 paint a bleak picture. Between 1990 and 2021, the proportion of Americans reporting no close friends quadrupled from 3% to 12%, compared with 15% of men reporting no close friends at all. Retirement doesn't create loneliness from scratch, but it strips away the social fabric that masks problems. Rebuilding your social life in your 60s and 70s is not impossible, but it requires a real effort that is easier to invest when you still have the motivation for your daily life and existing relationships. Joining clubs, volunteering regularly, and becoming a regular at gyms or community centers all take time to develop true friendships. Starting the process before work allows you to start running instead of cold starting. Retirement quarantine isn't just uncomfortable. The health minister's data suggest that this is medically dangerous. Warning sign 4. You don't have a plan for what you're actually going to do. This is the trap of catching the most confident. Savings look solid. Identity secure. Friendships outside the office. But if you ask what Tuesday looks like 3 years after retirement, the answer is staring blankly, followed by golf or travel. When you are exhausted from 40 years of work, disorganized time feels like heaven. But endless days without goals, projects, commitments, and frameworks move from freedom to stagnation faster than anyone expected. The retirement phase of Ashley illustrates just that, as the honeymoon fades and disillusionment fills the void. Repositioning may take longer than it should if there is nothing specific to build your life. A 2018 survey by the Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies confirmed that many retiring workers did not particularly consider how to spend their casual time. The disturbing reality is that retirement may not come as planned. A 2024 survey by the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development found that 46% of retirees left early, with about 35% believing they had health problems, another 35% believing that employers had changed, such as layoffs, and about 17% staying to take care of their families. This means that your retirement plan needs to be prepared earlier than you think, because the decision may be made for you. Cognitive health adds another layer. The Alzheimer's Association believes that mental stimulation, social engagement, and physical activity are key factors in reducing the risk of cognitive decline, and that couch retirement is harmful to all of them. Your plan doesn't need to look like a second career. Part time jobs, volunteering, learning new skills, writing, architecture, teaching, all of which matter. It doesn't matter that there is nothing. Warning sign 5. You haven't thought about how retirement will affect your most important relationships. Divorce rates for Americans 50 and older roughly doubled between 1990 and 2019, according to research by Susan Brown and Fen Lin of Bowling Green State University. Retirement itself did not cause this, but it created a pressure cooker that exposed all the unresolved tensions couples had avoided for decades. That dynamic has been hit hard for 2 or 3 decades. Both partners operated with built in separation, separate schedules, different worlds during the day, and natural breathing spaces, keeping the relationship at a manageable pace. Retirement eliminated all this overnight. Suddenly, you're all at home, sharing space and time all day, every day, without the structure that work once provided. And the fight that erupted was not about a huge philosophical divide. They are about expectations that have never been discussed. One imagines traveling often, the other wants to stay home with grandchildren. One thought they would spend more time together, while the other wanted to own the house. Financial disagreements arise when two people realize that they view retirement spending very differently. None of these conflicts are insurmountable, but they need to be resolved before the transition, not when resentment begins 6 months after the transition. These conversations are as important as any financial planning you do. By discussing everyone's normal week, how much time each person needs to be alone, what your financial expectations are, and the common activities you really want to engage in. If you're in a relationship, retirement plans aren't a separate project. How couples who lived together for decades ended up falling apart, like a couple in what was supposed to be their best chapter. Now, none of this is an argument against retirement itself. Numerous studies have shown that quitting smoking improves life satisfaction, reduces stress, improves sleep, and opens up time for exercise and a healthier daily life. A study using the French Gazelle cohort, published by the Wall Street Journal, found that retirement leads to a real decline in mental and physical fatigue, especially for workers who have just left demanding jobs. A study in the Journal of Epidemiology and Community Health found that working beyond the standard retirement age reduced mortality by 9 to 11%. Both can happen at the same time. Working longer is good for you, as is having a solid plan for retirement. The danger is in the middle. In an uncensored retirement, a person leaves his or her career without a financial roadmap, without an outside job sense of self, without friendships outside the office, without a specific vision of his or her life, or an honest conversation with a partner about the true face of his or her new life. Each warning sign is repairable, but fix them before you jump, not after you fall. If this leads you to rethink your time linear, confirms what you already suspect, send it to someone who needs to listen. If you haven't already signed up, it is a good time because we keep breaking down what is really important to your financial future. See you next time.